A victim of sex trafficking is suing a major hotel chain. She claims Wyndham Hotels knew about the trafficking going on at one of their hotels, but did nothing to stop it.
But the suit claims the hotel's owners and employees looked the other way because they were benefiting financially from it.
The Super 8 by Wyndham in Brooklyn Center is supposed to be a home away from home for travelers. But a new lawsuit claims it was also where a teenager was sexually exploited by a trafficker a decade ago. The victim, who was 15 at the time, claims from August to December of 2013, she was sold for commercial sex acts in a room at the Super 8. She claims the hotel's owners, Wyndham Hotels and Sarah Hospitality, were actually aware of the sex trafficking, but did nothing to stop it. In fact, when police went to investigate, an employee told the officer hotel records showed a person under 18 was in the room, and that hotel personnel believed it to be prostitution related.
New tonight, a group supporting people suffering abuse faces a new problem in trying to help those victims find a new place to sleep. A change in short-term motel policies is making it much harder, if not impossible, for some locals to reserve a room.
They do, and I spoke to a former manager of the Northwest Side's Comfort Suites Hotel. He says, and he didn't want to be identified, that they have that policy in place so they can keep illegal drug use, prostitution, and parties out of their rooms. But an employee at this location here near the airport behind me says it's to cater to out-of-town travelers.
Some hotels off merchants like the Holiday Inn say they've enacted a no locals policy. That means locals are not permitted to stay there due to the experiences that they've had with local stays in the past.
We had one woman this week who was turned away at a hotel. We had it confirmed and secured with our payment. And when the woman got to the hotel, she was told very clearly that because she had a local address, that the reservation was going to be canceled. When you have worked up the courage to finally leave an abuser, that's very difficult. And then to think that you have a plan and have that plan basically be taken away from you with no backup, it's a very scary process.
Canadians love to travel. In 2016, millions of Canadians went abroad for either work or pleasure. But what do you know about the people working to make your hotel experience perfect? Millions of women around the world spend their day cleaning hotel rooms. Their efforts contribute to the record profits of the hotel industry, but in exchange, they are paid poverty wages.
And when we hurt ourselves and we try to tell them, they don't believe us.
Injury rate for room attendants in North America's hotel industry is greater than that in the meatpacking industry.
The slave time is back again.
Everything is just like driving people to clean as many rooms as possible for as little money as possible.
D. West found that the Radisson Hotel in Oakland is responsible for wage theft exceeding $400,000, involving 128 employees.
I'm asking already for mercy, and that I don't supposed to beg.
Well, some tourists staying at a strip hotel may have returned home with unwanted guests. Reports show inspectors found bed bugs over the last few months at several strip properties.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Red Lavender here, and today I'm back with another deep dive YouTube video topic. Today, I'm going to be doing the pure evil files of the Hotel/Motel Industry Files. Deep dive, capitalism, true crime, etc. Let's get started in this YouTube video, but before we get started, all my YouTube videos related to this topic will be on the screen right now, as well as in the description down below if I have room, if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this YouTube video topic. Capitalism, hotels, motels, and human trafficking go hand in hand. Capitalism is a safe haven for sexual predators and people preying on people. With global inequality worsening and disparities becoming more prevalent in capitalism systems, vulnerabilities are being exacerbated. Basic needs are being commodified. Workers endure horrendous conditions while being underpaid and wage theft. And vulnerable populations are illicitly bought and sold for non-consensual sexual services as well as non-sexual services. Human trafficking is a booming business, now estimated to be a over $150 billion industry. Under capitalism, trafficking and exploitation thrive. Capitalism enables human bodies, especially those in vulnerable or unstable situations, to be seen as highly expandable, reusable, and profitable objects by those looking to exploit. Traffickers often hone in on these vulnerabilities using Maslow's hierarchy of needs to fill an emotional, psychological, or physical need that the target individual is in search of. Through this grooming process, the targeted individual is reduced to the means to an end that will ultimately result in their exploitation and the human traffickers' capitalism profits. Moreover, many traffickers use legal industries such as public transportation, hotels and motels, social media, and banks to aid the recruitment and continuation of trafficking. And while industries that intersect with human trafficking, like hotels and motels, are beginning to implement trafficking awareness, employee training, but in most cases, hotels and motels knowingly and intentionally turn a blind eye to the capitalism, sexual exploitation, and fear of losing the human trafficker's business. In regards to trafficking, human bodies and services are commodified and sold through force, fraud, or coercion for profits. In 2018, two-year FBI report on suspected countrywide human trafficking incidents, 40% of sex trafficking victims were black, despite only 13% of the U.S. population identifying as black. More than 40 human trafficking lawsuits have been filed against hotel companies and hotel chains. Hotel chains were named and accused of knowingly aiding and abetting and ignoring warning signs that women and children were sold as sex slaves on their premises. Ohio is the fourth largest state in the country for human trafficking, and more than 95% of it happens in hotels. The lawsuits have been filed against major hotel companies. Those companies include Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, Hilton Worldwide Holdings Inc, Red Roof Inns, and Choice Hotels International for allowing trafficking to occur on their property and profiting from human trafficking as a whole. You're not allowed to make money from trafficking ventures, and they're clearly participating in a venture by making money off every room that was rented to these traffickers. The law firms filed the first case in the countries against a hotel for human trafficking in 2019 under a statute known as the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. Since then, he said they've filed other cases in different parts of the country, with most of them being in the state of Ohio. We have had horror stories where people were handcuffed to toilets, and hotel staff, housekeeping, came in, and nobody does anything about it or even cares. According to the Polaris Project, 75% of human trafficking survivors report having come into contact with hotel employees during their trafficking experience. Unfortunately, according to the same study, 94% of survivors say hotel employees did not show any concern, any compassion, or offer any help at all. Relaxing vacations mean little work for travelers thanks to the host of people who work as housekeepers, bellhops, and cooks. But a new analysis has found that a largely invisible nature of these jobs means workers can be exploited. The Polaris Project also reports that there were 482 potential labor trafficking survivors since January 2015 that report working in hotels. These survivors in the supply chain of the hotel industry mostly hold jobs such as housekeeping and subcontractors. Due to these employees not being direct hotel hires, they are much more vulnerable to abuse, such as lacking of pay, wage theft, and unfit working hours. A victim of capitalism of this, her name was Miss Aganton. Ordeal began when she was trying to provide an income for her family. Her husband was incapacitated after a stroke, and the youngest of their three children, had special needs. She applied to work in the United States through a labor recruitment agency. By the time she arrived in Portland, Oregon in 2008 with a dozen other hopeful Filipino workers, she owed $3,000 for her H-2 H-2B visa, airfare, and interest on money that she had borrowed from a lending agency recommended by the recruiter. Although Miss Agaton's contract specified that she would work 40 hours a week at $8.50 an hour as a housekeeper, she said none of the jobs she worked in hotels in Scottsdale, Arizona, Macallan Island, Mitch, and Bossier Parish, LA, gave her those wages, and they seldom gave her that many hours to work. She said, "The agency tricked us," she said. "I was treated like a capitalism slave. The usual deductions, the cost of the bus pass, and the inflated amount for rent were withheld from her paycheck." Miss Acton said, recalling that she sometimes left with as little as only $50 a week for food, loan repayment, and support for her children. And since the H-2B visa is job-specific, she couldn't legally work at a different hotel without a new visa. Her debt continued to accumulate with each renewal. She explained that the broker charged her $750 to apply for a second visa and $1,600 to apply for her third, which also involved a transfer to a new staffing agency. Economic abuse, including debt bondage and withholding or confiscating passports or payments, was the most common type of control reported in hotline cases. According to the Polaris report, Ms. Agaton said that she doesn't believe anyone involved in this whole true crime situation was arrested for their capitalism atrocities. Hotel housekeepers awarded $58,000 after wage theft investigation. A Quality Inn operated by Hashim Hotel Corp. In Pleasant View, Tennessee, was found to be underpaying members of housekeeping staff. In one instance, one housekeeper was never paid any of the hours she worked, violating the Fair Labor Standards Act. In addition to those hours weren't spent doing tasks within the job description, as some employees were sent to run errands for hotel supplies at the local grocery store. These errands were not counted towards paid hours, or if they exceeded the 40 hours, they weren't increased to overtime wages. In total, $58,000 was awarded to 13 members of the front desk and housekeeping staff. S.F. Marriott Hotel illegally kept $9 million in workers' tips. A judge says San Francisco's Marriott Hotel illegally kept about $9 million in more than 5 years of banquet service charges that its customers reasonably understood to be tips for food servers. San Francisco Superior Court Judge Ethan Sullivan ordered the hotel to pay the withheld fees to hundreds of workers who served food and drinks at banquets from 2012 through April 2017. Human trafficking isn't exclusive to only those who physically step into the hotel for work. Hotels that don't check the labor practices of vendors who manufacture products such as bedsheets, coffee, and soaps may be compliant to labor trafficking. Traffickers run their business according to the convenience of the location, buyer comfort, price, infrastructure, procedures, and more. Oftentimes, they also look out for whether the hotel is prone to law enforcement monitoring in the area and how busy the staff is. Sex traffickers use hotels for their businesses through either an in-call motel or an out-call motel. An in-call human trafficking scenario is when the trafficker or survivor books a hotel for buyers to cycle in and out for services. Survivors will often live in these hotel rooms for days or weeks on end. In 2015, the first ever legal case against a hospitality organization for its role in human trafficking crime hit the stand. In the summer of 2011, Lisa Rocchetto went to visit a man she knew at a Shangri-La Motel in Seekonk, Massachusetts. From there, he withheld her against her will, days on end, while enduring sexual and physical violence and abuse. The man also told Lisa that she would continue to have sex with other men to make him money. It was sex trafficking, and at least twice while she was being held captive, the survivor claims hotel staff knew she was in distress, but didn't intervene or call the police. Since then, the implication of the Trafficking Survivors Protection Reauthorization Act allows civil lawsuits against anyone who knew or should have known that sex trafficking occurred and financially benefited. Because of this act, survivors and their families can now build cases against hotel chains for providing space for exploitation and capitalism atrocities. From 2006 to 2011, in San Diego, California, members of the Crips gang ran a child sex trafficking operation ring throughout various hotels. Two of the properties on which trafficking took place both belonged to the Wyndham Group. In one of the hotels, the staff actually assisted traffickers to solicit children. Travelodge staff would allow the gang to use the hotel computer to post online ads, advertise sex with minors, and would rent the rooms for higher rates and pocket the difference. The staff members would also warn traffickers if the police were nearby. A human trafficking survivor who was between the ages of 14 and 17 filed a lawsuit against Economy Inn for the Springdale, Arkansas in July 2022 as well for sex trafficking. And it's not just human trafficking problem either. Hotels and motels have. They both are known for the management and the owners to gaslight their customers and employees in Google reviews. People will have a really negative experience and put that in their Google review, and because managers are power hungry and owners just want capitalism profits, they'll gaslight you in the Google reviews or TripAdvisor reviews, etc. Not only that, but hotels and motels can pay people to leave fake Google reviews for their business. I've seen this with hotels, apartment complexes, and even fraudulent charities, these so-called charities, which are a capitalist scam. As hotels and motels ban locals, long-term guests are struggling to make ends meet. Instant noodle cups, canned beans, and boxes of microwavable popcorn line of what little shelf space Alvin and Marion Catron have in their motel room, where they've been living for the past 4 months. Alvin's heart medication and tissue boxes are neatly arranged on the nightstand. The beds are tightly tucked. She said our daughter did them, Marion said. She does a very good job. The couple and their adult daughter, who's mentally disabled, were grandfathered into their room at the Motel 6 in Roseburg. Had they tried renting a room last month, they would have been denied service. That is when the hotel and motel implemented a new policy saying, as of 4/7/17, we are no longer accepting guests from Douglas County. Read a sign taped to the front desk last week. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. Marion was diagnosed with cancer in 2012, just a few years after Alvin and his second heart surgery. The family poured money into chemotherapy treatments and health care and eventually found themselves in thousands of dollars worth of health care debt. They have been living in Motel 6 ever since they looked for a new home to rent. We're seeing people living in cars, living in tents, doubling up, doing what they can and need to survive. And motels become an option. Hopefully they continue to allow them to stay, because the alternative option for some people is pure homelessness and living on the street. And with the Supreme Court, right now as we speak, trying to criminalize homelessness, motels need to allow locals, because it's a capitalism atrocity and an inhumane act for anyone to be arrested just for being homeless. This is fascism. This is a U.S. police state regime. People who are suddenly rendered homeless often seek temporary shelter at a nearby motel. Many long-term motel guests don't have enough immediate cash on hand for a down payment on a home. Motels are thereby a cheaper short-term option, a band-aid, a temporary cover-up for homelessness, but they are extraordinarily more expensive in the long run. Alvin said he doesn't know how much longer he and his family can afford to live at Motel 6. They are paying $1,500 a month. That's about $450 more than it would cost to rent the average 2-bedroom house in Eugene, according to Zillow data. The policy of banning local guests in hotels and motels seems to be very common nowadays. Fieldman is not sure how he feels about the motel's ban on local guests. He says he wishes people would not have to resort to living in motels at all. What I prefer, he says, is that everyone who wants an apartment, a home, a place to live on a permanent basis, they should get it. He said, that's what I prefer. That's what I want. We're far from that. Hotels and motels are also dirty places as well, and you'll be gaslighted again by management. We've all, at some point or another, encountered a stray hair in our hotel room that didn't belong to us, or maybe a stain on the bed sheets. It's nothing that a quick call to the front desk can't fix, of course, but still it inevitably leaves a bad taste in your mouth, because it can't help but beg the question, if this is what I can see, what else can I not see? The hotels I personally been in, they had like cigarette smells and cigarette stains on the blankets, lampshades. They were like stained black, and the walls are stained black from cigarette smoke. It's disgusting. A hotel sink faucet, the dirtiest place in virtually every hotel bathroom, had over 55,000 times the bacteria of a toilet seat. A hotel shower head had 25,000 times the bacteria of a toilet seat. A hotel tub had 40 times more bacteria than a toilet seat. And it's not just this, but a lot of hotels have a roach or bedbug problem as well. Paris is having a bedbug outbreak as we speak, from hotel rooms to trains to movie theaters. Paris, France, one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world, seems to be crawling with bedbugs. Reports of bedbugs plaguing hotels and rental apartments first flared up over the summer, and now Paris is coping with an infestation of just 10 months before the French capital is set to host the 2024 Summer Olympics. When it comes to the environment and other factors that are bad about hotel industries as a whole, the facade of a 5-star hotel reveals a huge appetite for water, infiltrating various areas of their operations. The landscaping that creates a verdant oasis within the establishments comes at the cost of significant water consumption and usages. The swimming pools, lavish gardens, elaborate fountains, while visually captivating, often conceal the staggering volume of water required to maintain the allure. Hollywood celebrities got in trouble for wasting water during the California drought. Hotels are kind of doing the same thing. Within the realm of hospitality, the indulgence extends to the realms of laundry and sanitation. The frequently of linen changes, sheet changes, coupled with the demand of immaculate cleanliness, generates an unrelenting stream of water usage. According to the World Wildlife Fund, the average 5-star hotel can expend an astonishing 1.5 million gallons of water every single month. The staggering statistic illuminates the magnitude of the challenge at hand. Yet the implications of this proliferation of water usage, beyond sheer consumption, the extraction of such substantial volumes from local water resources poses a severe threat to regional ecosystems. Aquifers and rivers that sustain surrounding communities can be depleted, triggering an ecological crisis and ecological imbalances that transcend the confines of a hotel walls. The water story of these establishments, however, doesn't end with the appropriation of natural resources. The magnitude of water waste has a cascading impact on water quality. The intricate network of pipes, plumbing, and treatment systems can be overwhelmed by the excessive volumes of water discharged. This excess water waste, laden with chemicals and pollutants, can infiltrate local water bodies, contributing to water pollution that disrupts aquatic ecosystems and imperils aquatic life. Air conditioning systems designed to maintain an unvarying cocoon of comfort shoulder a considerable portion of this energy burden. The sprawling lobbies, restaurants, and guest rooms demand a miraculous balance of temperature and humidity, necessitating the continuous operation of cooling electrical systems that consume substantial amounts of electricity. The dazzling lights that grace these establishments, such as the illuminating corridors, pools, swimming pools, and luxury chandeliers, is another contributing factor to energy consumption. Vast arrays of iridescent and fluorescent bulbs, often left aglow around the clock 24/7, generate an extreme demand for electricity. However, the extravagant energy consumption exacts a toll beyond the confines of hotel walls. The carbon emissions stemming from this energy use contribute significantly to the carbon footprint, amplifying the capitalism-caused climate change crisis. The World Green Building Council highlights that the built environment of luxury hotels are a defining component, accounts for nearly 40% of global energy carbon emissions. Within the lavish realm of five-star hotels, the allure of expensive buffets and lavish spreads fosters a culture of food waste and has profound implications for food resources and the environment as a whole. It contributes to staggering rates of uneaten food, and we all know how bad food waste is. Behind the veneer of luxury that five-star hotels elude lies an insidious undercurrent of plastic pollution. And there's a huge alarming problem throughout the world of a plastic pollution crisis. Beneath the veer of exotic allure at five-star hotels project often lies a distressing phenomenon, cultural appropriation, an intricate web of practices that commodify local culture for capitalism commercial gain, often at the expense of the very communities from which these cultures' elements originate. While these establishments strive to create immersive experiences for guests, the ethical implications of this endeavor are rarely scrutinized. The act of cultural appropriation within luxury hotels manifests in diverse ways, from adopting traditional architectural elements into the design, incorporating indigenous mofers and decor. This exploitation of culture is not only disrespectful, but it also perpetuates economic inequalities. The allure of these culturally infused experiences is often used to attract high-end tourists who have a lot of money seeking authenticity. The irony is that its benefits often fail to trickle down to the very community whose heritage is being harnessed. Local artisans, craftsmen, and performers frequently find themselves marginalized, with their cultural contributions commodified without adequate recognition or reimbursement. Beyond the lavishness of five-star hotels lurks a disturbing fact: animal exploitation, an intricate tapestry of practices that capitalize on sentient beings for entertainment, often at the expense of animal welfare. The offering of activities such as elephant rides and dolphin shows might seem like innocent indulgences, but the veneer of epaulettes belies the distressing reality for the animals involved that are being exploited at these hotels. The training and management of these animals for entertainment frequently involve inhumane methods, abuse, leaving a trail of physical and psychological scars of the animal that was abused at these hotels. True crime cases related to hotel settings. Hotel collapse in Singapore. Hotel New World, a one-star budget hotel located in Singapore's Little India district, collapses due to growing microcracks in the failing columns of concrete. It was a result caused due to wrong calculation on the building weight distribution by construction engineer of the project. After a 7-day rescue operation, 17 people were saved, but 33 people died at the scene in this tragedy. It turns out the additional weight of the recently bought safe in the bank occupying the first floor, the air conditionings at the top roof, and the systematic tiles on its exterior as a decoration made the building too heavy to support itself, cracking 3 main support pillar beams and columns, and eventually on the day of the disaster all 3 columns failed and the hotel collapses. And on February 19, 2013, the body of Canadian tourist Ella Lame was recovered from a large cinder atop the stay on the main hotel in downtown Los Angeles, where she had been a guest. She was last seen alive on January 31st and was reported missing by her parents on February 1st. Her body was discovered by a hotel maintenance man worker investigating complaints of flooding and low water pressure and bad smelling and discolored water from the pipes. Interest in Lame's disappearance increased on February 13th when Los Angeles Police Department released security footage of her behaving erratically at a hotel elevator on the day she was last seen alive. The video went viral, while the autopsy performed on February 21st was inconclusive in determining the matter of death. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office subsequently ruled the death an accident, with bipolar disorder being a significant contributing factor to her death. In September 2013, her parents filed a wrongful death suit claiming the hotel failed to inspect and seek out hazards in the hotel that presented an unreasonable risk to danger and was seeking damages and burial costs. The hotel argued it could not have been reasonably foreseen that she might have entered the water tanks, since it remained unknown how she even got into the water tank. No liability could be assigned for failing to prevent it. In 2015, the lawsuit was dismissed, and on July 17, 1981, the Hallett Regional Hotel in Kansas City, Missouri, suffered the structural collapse of two overhead walkways. Loaded with partygoers, the concrete and the glass platforms cascaded down, following gravity, crashing into the tea dance in the lobby, killing 114 people and injuring 216. Kansas City society was affected for years, with the collapse resulting in billions of dollars of insurance claims, legal investigations, and city government reforms. Approximately 1,600 people gathered in the area for a tea dance on the evening of Friday, July 17, 1981. Guests heard loud popping noises that sounded like a gunshot before the fourth-floor walkway dropped several inches, paused, and then completely fell onto the second-floor walkway. Both walkways then fell into the crowded lobby floor. A diner at the 42nd floor revolting restaurant atop the Hallett said it felt like an explosion when all this happened. Rescuers often had to dismember bodies to reach survivors among the wreckage. A surgeon spent 20 minutes amputating one victim's pinned and unsalvageable leg with a chainsaw. That victim later died. Blood centers quickly filled and received lineups of hundreds of donors. The Lifeline helicopter pilot compared the carnage to the Vietnam War, but in greater numbers here. Water flooded the lobby from the hotel's ruptured sprinkler system and put trapped survivors at risk of drowning after the incident. The final rescued victim, Mark Williams, spent more than 9 hours pinned underneath the lower skywalk with both legs dislocated and having nearly drowned before the water was shut off. Visibility was poor because of the dust and because the power had been cut to prevent fires. The serious flaws of the revisited design was actually the cause of the whole situation. Investigators concluded that the underlying problem was a lack of proper communication between Jack D. Gillum and Associates and Haven Steel, in particular the drawings. Haven Steel interpreted them as finalized drawings when they were not, and Gillum and Associates failed to review the initial design thoroughly. And it was later compared to Jack D. Gillum would later reflect that the design flaw was so obvious that any first-year engineer student could figure it out if only it had been checked. So this was a preventable tragedy that turned into a tragedy.